You Are Enough, Part 2, posted July 25th, 2023. With God's calling comes a time of preparation, and preparation requires patience. David Jeremiah. I do my daily devotionals using the YouVersion Bible app, typically choosing a plan to go through the Bible in a year. This year, I chose English clergyman Nicky Gumbel's classic Bible in 1 Year commentary, where each day he and wife Pippa provide insights and real-life application related to that day's chapters. In a recent reading, Nicky paraphrased John Newton, former slave trader turned abolitionist and author of Amazing Grace, which seemed an appropriate way to start. I'm not what I ought to be. I'm not what I wish to be. I'm not what I one day will be. But, by the grace of God, I am not what I once was. It's not easy to break down years of formulas that equal the sum of one's thought patterns. In many ways, I still struggle with the esteem issues mentioned in Part 1. But time has afforded a measure of clarity to some of those cognitive distortions. For instance, I'm certain one of the reasons I'm so neurotic about my appearance, or bothered when my hair or nails get too long, is rooted in sensitivity and embarrassment from childhood. My lifelong Schwarzenegger man crush and near obsession with getting bigger, stronger, and faster no doubt originates from being a skinny, genetically unimpressive late bloomer who for years felt belittled and powerless to do anything about it. I don't know if it hurt or helped that he once said, "We all want to look good, to stand naked in front of a mirror and be pleased with what we see, and of course, have others be pleased with what they see when they look at us." I've spent decades lifting and exercising fanatically to feel good about the way I look, with or without clothes on. I was almost 50 before I got there, and it didn't last long. But I digress. I'm sure at least part of my early lean towards public safety was influenced by esteem for which those in uniform were once held, followed by recognition that military and civil service provided not only structure, discipline, challenge, and esprit de corps, but also fulfilled all 5 of Maslow's needs in my life at the time. I worked tirelessly at every level to be the absolute best I could be. It became a work ethic I'm proud of, yet I sometimes wonder if it was approval, adoration, acceptance that subconsciously drove me. High performance and high achievement often equal borderline workaholism, and a price was sometimes paid in time I'll never get back. Yet there is nobility in helping the helpless and standing up for those unable to, which I'm sure my doc would also affirm was a subconscious manifestation to overcome runt status and somehow prove myself worthy. What better way to prove oneself worthy than to try being everyone's knight in shining armor? But even the knight in shining armor's sword can be double-edged, for in trying to be everything to everyone, we sometimes feel obliged to rescue those not ours to save, or lose sight of the peace and beauty of our own kingdom while admiring the deceptive splendor of someone else's. While everyone responds differently to stress, hurt, or injustices in life and relationships, I've long held a tendency to take things more personally than I should. Sometimes, subconsciously using that as an impetus, I'd mix it together with an elixir of past insecurity, pain, or self-consciousness, and let it culture in the warped petri dish of my mind. Once the microorganism of self-pity was incubated, it gave birth to various forms of self-affirming, self-centered acting out. And while acting out may temporarily make us feel better, there's almost always collateral damage. Seldom does selfishness make others feel better. I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two, and done a thing or two. There's something to that midlife crisis thing. Still, the impact of boys and their toys shoring up tender egos with an ever-growing, never-enough array of gas-powered machismo is pretty innocuous. More concerning is when dispositions change, when we become increasingly abrupt, less forgiving, decreasingly tolerant, and an even bigger jackass, especially toward loved ones. Then there's all that other stuff we neither wish to talk about nor have time or space in this episode. Yes, the flesh is indeed weak, and perhaps a more godly man would be better at controlling his thought life, fleeing youthful lust, or being more of a red light than a yield sign. Yet in the context of this article, those like me, whose perceived sum total from past experience, especially concerning appearance and desirability, long equaled a probability quotient of 0, finally ringing the high-strike bell of self-confidence at the circus of life is a powerful boost. Combine that with a string of rejections, disappointments, or unfulfilled expectations, and it's a recipe for another article. But our past doesn't have to control us. Joe DeCina, founder of the Spartan race phenomenon, says bitching burns between 0 and 0 calories per minute, so there's no sense complaining about your hardships. He's right. Examine your past, acknowledge its impact and influence, and move on. Easy for me to say. I still have trouble accepting myself as enough, and my thought life is likely to hamstring me indefinitely. But understanding in whom to find identity and properly accredit self-worth will help avoid these pitfalls. Stop stumbling over things that are already behind you. Here's why. Nothing we face hasn't first been integrated into God's plan for our life. God does, in fact, work all things together for good to those who love him, Romans 8:28. In the very next chapter, we're also reminded that he can and will do as he pleases. Does not the potter have the right to make out of the same lump of clay some pottery for noble purpose and some for common use? I'm definitely destined for the common use category, and I'm pretty sure I still identify as a lump of clay. But I know God is in whom to find value and meaning for my life, and he's still molding me into the man I'm intended to be, despite my best efforts to torpedo his artistry. Yes, I've been too long concerned with my physical appearance and what others think of me. God made me and accepts me as I am. Does that leave me free to let myself go? Of course not. Even though I have stopped shaving and mostly wear sweatpants in retirement, I still need to care for the vessel that he's using. I can't be renting out a ramshackle cottage, crack house, or fancy's one-room, rundown shack on the outskirts of New Orleans. I need to maintain a strong foundation, keep my windows clean to let the light shine in, and stir the bats of defective thinking out of my belfry. I've wasted much time concerned with what people think of me, focused on the wrong things, or thinking I'm not enough. Nicky Gumbel suggests that dealing with the challenges we face doesn't prevent us from doing the ministry God called us to, but perhaps that's actually the ministry itself. So instead of attributing things in my past to my own dysfunction, I'll try adjusting my paradigm thusly. I'm using the good, bad, and ugly of my life, career, and experience to bring me closer to God, help others, and make the world a better place. You want to be a great leader, friend, and human? Get outside your comfort zone, own your mistakes, get over yourself, and stop deflecting or blaming others for your shortcomings. A few apologies might be good too. You are enough. Be confident in who you are and to whom you belong. Get strong, be strong, stay strong.